Hello and welcome back. This is the Starters, our 2024 relaunch edition. I'm Dave Trentadue. That's Simon Tsalikis. Over there is George Caperis. How's it going, boys?
What's going on, boys?
Living the dream.
There you go. So this is technically a relaunch of our 5 questions starter podcast for the year 2024. You'll be able to find the episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts every Wednesday. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and at the Starters 690. And don't forget to check out Simon, Joey Alfieri every weekend on TSN 690, Saturdays and Sundays, 7 to 9 a.m. as they are back on your radios as well. Guys, you ready to get going here?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All right, let's roll. Question number 1 brought to you by Club CDL. Check them out. Best tennis, squash, pickleball, 2-story gym. They now have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So check them out at clubcdl.com. We're going to have to roll around.
Is Royce Gracie involved?
Funny enough, it's Henzo Gracie. So it's one of the Gracies.
Oh, really?
Her brother.
I think it's like might be the brother or it might be the nephew. I'm not sure. It's a huge family tree. I was looking at their family tree. It's
yeah, I'm not a big UFC guy at all, but that's a name I remember from UFC 1 and 2, man.
For sure, yeah. He beat, I think, Frank Shamrock at one of the big UFC events at the beginning.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so check them out, clubcdl.com, and if I could get you guys in some gis, we'll go down there and roll one day. It'll be fun.
Let's do it.
All right, so it's the divisional round of the NFL playoffs this weekend, and it all begins with my Ravens hosting the Texans on Saturday at 4:30. Then we got the Packers and Niners. We got the Bucks and the Lions. And then, of course, we got the Chiefs and the Bills. So my first question is very simple. What is the most likely upset we can see this weekend?
Most likely upset. I think it's the Chiefs. And I love what the Buffalo Bills. I've been doing the second part of not the second part of the season, the last third of the season. I think Josh Allen's playing at a high level. We had to pick a Super Bowl matchup at TSN 690, and I had the Niners and the Bills. But just watching that game between the Steelers and the Steelers and the Bills, and it just seemed like in the second half, every second play, a member of the Buffalo Bills defense was headed to the blue tent. So they're pretty banged up. They're thin. They've lost a lot of their pass rushing. I don't know, man. This is like a bad matchup when it comes to not a good time to be unhealthy when playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I think everything else is just, I'm not going to say everything else is a toss-up because they aren't. But if you ask me, can I see the Packers beating the Niners? I guess I can. Not likely. We've seen crazier things like this past weekend. I just don't think the Ravens can drop a game to the Texans. Bucks, Lions, okay, but if I had to put my money on an upset, I'll take a 1-5 in red to get it done.
So, Dave, I love revisionist history, as you know. And if we go back a few months, I said the Dolphins weren't for real. I felt the Eagles were a flawed team. And I said the 49ers look like a Super Bowl team. That being said, the reason I'm even talking about that is because I don't think there's any upsets here. If I had to pick one, gun to the head, and I still don't think they're going to do it, I'd go with CJ Stroud because what he's done the entire year has been nothing short of miraculous. So could he have one more miracle left up his sleeve? The answer is quite likely no. But, gun to my head, I just don't think, for all the reasons that Simon just mentioned, I don't think the Bills can do it. I think Tampa Bay has maxed what they're able to do. No one's beating the 49ers this year from what it looks like. So I got to go with CJ Stroud in an unlikely victory if I had to pick one.
That's fair. Definitely. He's defied expectations all year, right? So I think
that's the thing. He's done it all year.
Lamar still has to prove himself in the playoffs.
Very unlike this year if we see all 4 favorites.
I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. And the weird thing is I think CJ Stroud, if we kind of look at his rookie season, if he doesn't get hurt, we may be talking about CJ Stroud, the MVP. That's how good a season he had. So I'm not ready to discount them totally, but I just think they're such a young team. rookie coach, rookie quarterback. We've never seen that before. There's too much up against them. So we'll see.
You said that my Dolphins pick was a fraud, but you don't mention that you had your Bengals.
I did. But that was injuries, right? Hold on.
Actually made the playoffs.
I hear you.
Those that didn't make the playoffs.
No, I hear you. But the Bengals almost did make the playoffs with a backup quarterback, right? I mean, we'll see next year with Joe Burrow there. We'll take it. We'll take it next year.
You got to get into the dance. You know that, right?
That's right. Yes.
That's step one in being a good team.
Absolutely.
We'll stick for the NFL for question number 2, brought to you by joeyelias.com. Looking to find Montreal's best Anglo comedian, head on over to joeyelias.com. He has a ton of great shows coming up, and you can catch the lineups there. All right, so question number 2, Bill Belichick, right? He and the Patriots part ways after 24 years, 6 Super Bowls. He's already reportedly interviewed for the Atlanta Falcons job. It looks like the Cowboys job was rumored, but it's off the table now. There's so many rumors swirling around and so many possibilities. I just want to know, where do you guys think Bill Belichick will end up? So
I was, after the second touchdown that Green Bay scored, I think I texted Simon, or it might have been the third touchdown when it went 21-0. And I texted him and I said, by Thursday, Bill Belichick will probably be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to stick with this. I just feel like if he really wanted that Atlanta job, he'd already have that Atlanta job. I feel like he'll only take that Atlanta job if that Cowboys job isn't on the table. I'm not convinced that this isn't already a coup. It's already a coup de grace where everything is already set up here. It just makes sense on so many levels to have Belichick coaching the Cowboys, right? His relationship apparently with Jerry Jones and his son. The fact that they have already a ready-made defense ready to go. The offense is ready to win. They seem to lack a little bit of that discipline and know how to win. And those are the two things that Bill Belichick kind of, is as an expert of. That's what the whole Patriot way is about. So I think Belichick fits in many regards in that way. The one thing that I find interesting is Bill Belichick has always had final say. How is it going to work with Jerry Jones? How is it going to work when Bill Belichick refuses to talk to the media? We've seen all those media sound bites where he's just not giving anything. How is he going to feel when Jerry Jones, who didn't even have to talk to the media after last game, came downstairs and he could have just said, "Look, I'm not going to talk to the media today. I'm going to let this breathe a little bit." But Belichick, he came down, Jerry Jones, and he said, "Oh, we didn't do well. We're going to evaluate everything." How is Bill Belichick going to look at that? Can that work? And that's the interesting question I ask myself. But if I had to put some money, some hard-earned money on this, I'd go with the Dallas Cowboys still.
I don't think there's a chance that a very slim to none chance that he goes to Dallas. Jerry Jones likes to have his yes men in place. Mike McCarthy, I believe that's 3 seasons in a row with 12 victories. Underachieved in the playoffs for certain. But, he had Jason Garrett there for 9 years. Most were calling for Jason Garrett's job after year 4 or 5. So he kept him along for an extra 4 or 5 years. So I just don't see Dallas as a landing spot. I'm going to say this about Mike McCarthy. Look, his team sucked on Sunday. Every aspect, from coaching to their run defense, to their run game, to everything, right? Here's a perfect example of, don't read the stat lines. Dak Prescott threw for over 350 yards, had 3 touchdowns, and he was completely irrelevant in that game. It was a bad game. But big picture, Mike McCarthy took over that team, the offensive play calling, this year. We've never seen a better Dak Prescott in our life. The last 60 minutes, not very good. But you want to, it's $1 billion industry. I don't think you should gauge it on a 60-minute match. You want to look big picture. Your quarterback has never played better. Who can replace your quarterback immediately on a team that is geared to win now? I don't know. With Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, I don't know where you can go get that. But even if it's Fields or Cousins, it's pretty much a parallel move. Or if anything, Dak Prescott has proven more in the NFL than Justin Fields has. So your quarterback played at a high level, and that a lot has to do with Mike McCarthy. So I don't see it as they're going to move on Mike McCarthy just yet. I think Atlanta, to me, and Joey, you bring up a great point.
The best.
Yeah. Coming out of college, he was
the best.
He was Victor Wembanyama.
He's the best tight end prospect ever.
Maybe, exactly. So you're good there. You've had success with Gronk and Hernandez in your offense when you had tight ends. Even now, I'm drawing a blank on the guy that they got from San Diego.
Hunter Henry.
So he was relatively successful for a bad offense. So I think it fits. It's a win team. I didn't tune in and break down Falcons film, but from what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard is the defense can ball. And the one thing that Bill Belichick has not forgotten for a second, Bill Belichick is a genius. He's not very good on the defensive side. He's a genius. Considering that defense is on the football field, the Patriots the last couple of years, one of the elite defenses, and they're on the field the entirety of the match, and they still put up incredible numbers. He is brilliant on that side of the football. I think there's enough pieces on offense. It's a winnable division. So if I had to bet a buck or a latte, I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Sold me, Simon. That was a very good, passionate, sound argument. I like it. All right, we're going to go to question number 3. This one brought to you by EA Fitness. They're having a massive promotion to Kickstart 2024, where their private memberships are 50% off for the month of January. You can get yours for just $45 a month now, I think. So check them out, eafitness.inc on Instagram. They're a great follow. All right. So the Toronto Raptors are reportedly close to, pretty much completed their deal of sending Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers for a package that includes 3 first-round picks. Plus, I want to know, Simon and George, where that leaves the Raptors going forward. And also, 2-part question. We don't do these often on the show, I promise. But what is or will be Pascal Siakam's legacy in Toronto?
Well, for the first part, look, I could care less for the first-round picks. It's not the way the NBA goes. I know that Giannis, where he went, and it's hard, man. The NBA is the one league you get a lot better when you go out and you go find a guy on a lower-level team. You go and pluck Shea out of Oklahoma. You go and pluck Karl Anthony Towns out of Minnesota. That's the way it's done in the NBA. Jimmy Butler, didn't start his career in Miami. Anthony Davis didn't start his career with the Lakers. Nobody on the Clippers was a Clipper when, they were drafted. So I just think it seems the NBA is built really through free agency, more so than actual draft picks. Of course, the more the merrier, but it's not as quick as a turnaround. So I don't think there's enough depth for them. It would have been nice if they got Ben Mathurin. I think that's what they were holding out for, but the Pacers were not going to have it. I'm happy that Ben Mathurin is not there, because at that point you get all those Canadian kids and I'm going to have to start cheering for the Raptors, and it's not something I want to do. But all kidding aside, I think they're left with a non-playoff team. And if you're the Raptors, you just hope you can nail one of those first-round picks. You want somebody in one of those mid, teens. I'm not going to say to turn out to be a Giannis. That's unfair. You're looking at a 2-time league MVP. You're just looking for somebody of high quality. I think they can get out of there and start to compete. I don't think they can compete with the Celtics. They don't compete with the Sixers. They don't compete with the Bucks. But in that next wave, the Indianas of the world, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Miami Heat, they're not just there yet, but one good offseason with the draft and perhaps a nice free agent that fits the profile of what they're looking for. It could be. And for Pascal Siakam's legacy, man, look, he was a big, big part. Not a small part. He was a big, big part in a championship team. When they went up against the Warriors, Kawhi was good, and Kawhi got the MVP and all that stuff. But that also had to do with a lot of the work Kawhi had done, the heavy lifting to get to the finals. In the finals, Pascal Siakam was very good. I would imagine forever, a la Joe Carter, a la Robbie Alomar. He's going to always be, I would imagine, very special to that fan base in Toronto.
So, I saw the trade, and the first thing that I thought was this is exactly the trade that represents Pascal Siakam's career. It's underwhelming, okay? He's $37 million player. This is his best season. He's averaging 22 points a game on a team that's not going to make the playoffs. His career average is 17 points. He doesn't really move the needle as a go-to type player. What they got back, 3 first-round picks, sounds like it's good. Exactly like Pascal Siakam, sounds like it's good. But at the surface, these are late picks that are not going to amount most likely to anything much than a role player on an NBA team. Pascal Siakam, when you look at what he's done in the 8 years he's been Toronto Raptor, he was really good when he wasn't the man on the team, when he didn't have to carry the team like he had to the last 3 years, and he couldn't carry the team, which was clear. So the Raptors looked at it and said, we have a $37 million player that's not worth $37 million that we're going to have to probably give $45 million to next year. Let's get something for him before he just walks and we get nothing for him. Or the rest of the league finds out he's just not worth this $45 million. So they cut bait now. And the Indiana Pacers look at it as if let's look at this and say, look, we have a good young star in Halliburton. Let's try and get Siakam and see what happens. Maybe they mesh. Maybe, we can make a deep run into the playoffs. But look, I think this was the best the Toronto Raptors could do. It was no secret in the NBA that he has been available since the beginning of the year, if not the end of last season. And all the offers have been underwhelming. This was the best deal they could get. And the reason for that is because there is no legacy of Pascal Siakam. He's a role player. That's the truth of it. Was he a good player in the NBA Finals? Yes, he was a good player. But when we look back at that championship, we're going to think one thing. We're going to think that bucket that Kawhi hit late wins that crucial game against Philadelphia. That's what we're going to look at. And I mean, at the end of the day, Pascal Siakam is going to be a footnote in Raptors history. He doesn't even, I think he's 5th in points, 3rd in rebounds, 5th in assists. Good. Deep history, Raptors? Not really. I mean, who are the great players that have played with the Raptors? I mean, 10, 15 years from now, if they get 3, 4 more good players, we're never going to remember Pascal Siakam. That's the honest truth of it. It's unfortunate. I understand he was a bit of a fan favorite for the time he played, but I think that time is done.
Wow. Harsh words. I kind of agree with you on that aspect. I think that he'll just be probably won't be remembered as one of the greats, Vince Carter or even DeMar DeRozan or anything like that. But he was good in that championship round. And he is a fan favorite, right? I think people liked him a lot. He was
interesting fact about the Toronto Raptors. I'm glad you brought up Vince Carter, because Vince Carter is the only person I've ever seen in any professional sport that is the most loved and most hated player of a franchise. I've never seen that in any other franchise. I don't know if you guys can think of a franchise that has another player like that, but Vince Carter was voted the most hated player and the most loved player of a franchise. I've never seen that before.
That's crazy, because Vince Carter to me is like he was one of the reasons people want to play basketball in Toronto and why you have probably so many Canadian kids out there now.
Well, I think it's just the way the relationship.
That's fair.
He quit.
Well, he quit, and you thought there was nothing left in his game, and then you went on to 2 NBA Finals, and he was an all-star pretty much every year outside of, during his prime outside of Miami. And when you watched him play that last year and a half in Miami, the last year, he looked like there was nothing.
That's right.
Nothing that's happened.
That's fair. All right. Question number 4, gentlemen, brought to you by Fresh MTL, located in Gold Gym in Laval. Their food is healthy, delicious. They're on Uber Eats as well. Simon, had anything good from there lately?
Yes, I've been pounding the protein shakes after a workout. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, but I get a couple of meals a week because it's easy for me to just have them at home. And like I've always said, the Fresh MTL is nice. It's close to my house, but also it keeps me away from the drive-through, Dave, through the demons.
I gotcha. All right, let's talk some Habs here. Trade deadline is on Friday, March 8th. And while we may not be expected to see much come in, although Ken Hughes could surprise us, we do expect to probably see some players depart. So my question to you is, how do you guys see the trade deadline playing out for the Canadiens?
I was thinking about this today, and I was like, I think the Canadians, if you kind of look at it logically, there's a bit of a logjam on defense. And I get the feeling that obviously Savard is one of the guys that, they kind of sticks out because he's an older guy and they got to make room for the younger guys. But how many younger guys can you have? Like, can you have, 8 younger guys? And we talked about that left-handed defenseman all the time. I just think the logjam, it looks like, I think Ken Hughes is going to pull something a little bit bigger than we think. I really believe that. I don't know if it's Jordan Harris, Jaden Struble, Justin Barron, one of them, or it's maybe Arbor that's in Laval. I know a lot of teams like the way he plays. So, do they package them up and go get maybe an established NHLer who can put pucks in the net because they're lacking that? For sure, Monahan's gone. So I'll say Monahan's gone. I believe one of the goalies is going to be traded, but I really think, and when I say one of the goalies, I do think it's Jake Allen, but I think there's going to be a bigger deal. And the bigger deal, I think, is going to be a defenseman's going to get moved in a bigger package. There's going to be some sort of trade. I get the feeling it's going to come. And if it doesn't come at the trade deadline, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to happen in the summer. There's going to be a massive deal. But for the trade deadline, I get the feeling there's a bunch of teams that aren't super happy with their rosters right now. And there might be a deal in the works, might be something cooking. There's other teams that are starting to really, the panic's starting to set in. They played New Jersey today. I don't think New Jersey looked too good. New Jersey's not looking like a playoff team. Is that a team that wants to shake it up? They've got a couple of established guys they may want to move. Maybe not their younger guys, but those veteran, not old veteran type players. We'll see. Interesting.
Between now and the deadline, I don't expect anything. Maybe I think Sean Monahan is a guy that would entice a lot of NHL teams. The goaltending, I wouldn't be surprised if we're having this conversation about the goaltending next year. Honestly, I just don't think anybody's willing to part ways with that much for Allen, considering there's one more year of tenure. It probably gets done in the summer. I'm not certain that it gets done between now and the deadline. But yeah, like I'm with George here. The deal that's going to make this team better is not going to be made at this trade deadline. Clearly, it's going to be made in the summer. You can all the defensemen George mentioned, and you have to find a spot for Logan Mailloux. You have to find a spot eventually for Reinbacher. Will it be in October of 2024? Maybe not. Maybe October of 2025. Lane Hudson, without question. Again, highly likely that he'll need a spot in October of 2024. Does he go to the Rocket? Maybe. So that's 3, and then you add him to everybody else that you have up front. And George mentioned a guy like Savard might be on the move. I think he's very enticing for a lot of teams. He's got the pedigree, the playoff pedigree to back it up. But if you do move on a guy like with Savard, I don't think Ken Hughes is going to spend an entire offseason and not bring in a Savard type defenseman, somebody who's played 8, 9, 10 years in the league. You can't hand, it's Matheson is your vet, and then Gouli is in his 3rd year, and then a whole bunch of guy in their 1st and 2nd year. That's a recipe for disaster. Say what you want about the Leafs. They can still score a lot of goals. The Panthers aren't going anywhere. The Bruins seem to be good every year. You would think eventually the Sabres and the Senators might get it right. You just can't be that young on the blue line, I think, in the Atlantic Division. So, again, it'll be Monahan at the deadline. Interesting to see what happens with Armia because now you look at the numbers, the point totals, and the goal production. He's on, in an 82-game schedule, he's on pace for, I think, 22 goals. Doesn't turn over the puck. Doesn't make mistakes. Not a liability.
$4 million.
Yeah, but it's 1 year of $4 million with the cap going up. So listen. I don't know if he gets dealt, but over 20 goals, relatively physical, doesn't lose his battles, isn't lost in his own end. Somebody might take a chance on him, knowing that there's $4 million left over for one more year. Look. If you get 20 goals out of this guy, $4 million is an absolute bargain. 20-goal guys don't make $4 million. They make a lot more than that. So that's what I would maybe see somebody come looking for Armia. But that's going to be somebody that lost some depth between now and the deadline.
Man, if that happens, latte on me, I'll tell you that. I think that's a little wishful thinking.
That happens, Ken Hughes a magician.
No, I don't think it's that. Listen, guys, he's not a liability defensively. He's not clueless in his own end.
It's the consistency, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, now you got to gauge him from the time they brought him back up from Laval. You know, guy, listen, man, that's a pro player that went to an American Hockey League team, didn't sulk, didn't suck.
He handled it perfectly. We'll agree there.
I think, look, I use the term often, consummate professional. I think Yoel Armia is that. Now, you know, the right coach to get him going, but maybe this is the right coach to get him going. Like I said, he's on pace for over 20 goals now. I think he's got, 7 in 26 or 27 games. So it's right around that number. I just think that somebody might be enticed by him. I think we'd all agree if his contract had no more tenure on it, he was a free agent this summer, I think there'd be lots of time.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So.
All right. That's fair. It's a good take. All right. So we'll move on to our final question. Question number 5, brought to you by Vivaldi Restaurant. Best bring your own wine restaurant in Montreal, located on the West Island, 13071 Boulevard going west. Follow them at Resto Vivaldi on Instagram. They're awesome. And tell Steve and Dave that the starters sent you. All right, boys, at the beginning of the season, some of us had the Leafs in the Cup final. Some of us had the Oilers in the Cup final. But if you look now, sitting atop the NHL standings are 2 different Canadian teams, the Jets and the Canucks. So, guys, I just want to know, January 2024, which team gives us the best hope of winning Canada's first Stanley Cup since the Habs in 1993?
I'd love to say the Oilers, Dave. I'd love to say. I don't. There's no way I can trust, because look, they won 12 in a row. So, you know, if they were playing just like 600-700 hockey and they get it to the playoffs as a wild card, I think the matchups, whether it's Colorado or whether it's Winnipeg or Vegas, whoever's, you know, the wild card teams will play the division winners. And then you got to do it again, and then you got to do it again. And every one of those series, you won't be favored because of your goaltending. You lose the goaltending advantage. So I'm worried about the Oilers when it comes to that. So I'm going to look at all these Canadian rosters. The Leafs are a flawed roster. The Oilers relatively flawed from maybe the blue line in. The Canucks, can't say anything. I think they're playing really well. But I look at Winnipeg, and I think that's as complete as a roster that you can get. There's a whole bunch of guys that can get 30 goals. They have their point-a-game players. Kyle Connor came back yesterday, scored a goal. So him and Scheifele, when he's going, I think that's right there. That's 2 point-a-game guys. The Dubois trade has looked fantastic for them. I think with Morrissey, you have a legit number 1 guy that you can throw out there for 28, 29, 30 minutes in a playoff game. And the Winnipeg Jets have one thing that maybe no other team in the National Hockey League has, and that is absolute content and faith in their goaltending. That's it. I'm sure the group in Boston has that as well when it comes to their tandem, although they weren't great in last postseason. But Hellebuck, to me, might be the advantage that the Winnipeg Jets have over everybody in the Western Conference. So I'll take the Jets with the chance of breaking the 1993 streak.
So revisionist history once again. I love that.
You leave things out though.
No, hold on here. I picked the Oilers to win the Cup. I'm going to continue to pick the Oilers to win the Cup. And I said I didn't think they were in trouble when they were struggling, because I just said they have Connor McDavid, and as long as the team has Connor McDavid, they're going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to do some sort of damage in the playoffs. Now, obviously, you know, would I put my hard-earned money on the Edmonton Oilers, I'd have a little bit of difficulty, but I'm just going to say I think there's so much talent on that team that eventually they're going to get it done. I really do. And I think they're going to play the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. It's going to be an all-Canadian Cup. You heard it here first. All right. And I looked at it and I said, geez, when's the last time we had an all-Canadian Stanley Cup? It's been a while, gentlemen. It's been a long while. But the Canada has been close to winning a cup, right? The Oilers went to Game 7. The Flames went to Game 7 against Carolina. We had 2 times the Vancouver Canucks go to Game 7 and lose. So we've been close. Canada's been close. We've almost been there. I think this is the year we get it done with a double Canada matchup. But honestly, if I had to put money, my own hard money on the line, I have to agree with Simon. I think the Winnipeg Jets are sneaky good. They're under the radar. And I think they probably have the best GM in hockey, because he was under the gun this summer. if you look at what was going on in Winnipeg, there was so much upheaval with Dubois, Scheifele, and Hellebuck that wanted either a new contract or wanted out. He managed to get two great pieces for Dubois, who I think the Kings right now are not loving that trade too much. And he was able to sign Scheifele and Hellebuck to long-term contracts, settle the fan base. The fan base just wanted heads. They wanted heads to roll. They wanted to clean out the entire team. Hired a veteran coach in Rick Bowness, who I think is the right personality for that team and that area of the country. So I think right now that's the team. You look at it, Morrissey, a guy they didn't expect would turn into a bona fide number one, is right now a superstar defenseman. And the pieces they have around are good too, Simon, right? Yeah. A bunch of grinders. What they're missing is probably a center. They're missing a second center on that second line. I think they can get that at the deadline. I think they can get a little bit of sandpaper, get a little bit nastier. I like the Winnipeg Jets. But because I'm a man of my word, I'm going to stick with the Edmonton Oilers, Toronto Maple Leafs, Stanley Cup final. You heard it here first, 2024.
Good man. We're gonna keep this video, and we're gonna post it no matter what.
Let's do it. Right. Nostradamus has spoken.
Love it, guys. All right, so don't forget, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok at the Starter 690. We'll be a lot more active there. And thanks, boys. That was fun.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Bye, Simon.
Hey, hold on, Dave.